Hello and welcome to the Year 1 Information PowerPoint. Your child has now moved from the early years foundation stage into the national curriculum. The national curriculum is made up of the 2 core subjects, English and Maths, and 10 foundation subjects that you can now see in green. At Oatlands Infants School we use a topic approach. So for example, this half term our topic is This Is Me. And we try to link the subjects with this topic. So for example, in history, the children are bringing in their baby photographs and they're looking at the changes that have happened to themselves since they're a baby, and then we'll look at changes that will occur into the future. In art, children will be creating their self-portraits. Each half term we'll be sending out a newsletter with information about the topic and how you can support your child at home. So there has been a change of daily structure for your child since reception, and the children are sat a lot more at tables at their desks, and we do a lot of whole class teaching that we try and make it as engaging and as interactive as possible, and the children are coping really well with this change. Your child will all now have a planner in their book bag, so this is a little white booklet with the picture of the school on. And each Monday we stick into the planner a planner insert. At the top of the insert it has information about what we'll be covering that week and any little notices we want to tell you. And at the bottom of the insert it has your child's spellings. So the spellings will be sent home on a Monday, and then the following Monday they'll have a little spelling quiz in the classroom. The planner is also used as a reading record, so whenever you've read with your child, can you please initial that you've read with your child and how they've done, and we do the same in school. You'll also have sent home at the end of the autumn and spring term an end of year expectations booklet. So this has objectives of what we'd like your child to meet by the end of the year. So at the end of the autumn term we'll highlight the objectives that they have met in one colour, and at the end of the spring term we'll add to those with a different colour of when they've met more objectives. By now your child should have brought a named PE kit into school. These should be brought into school on a Monday, and then they will go home on a Friday. Reading in Year 1. Your child will do individual reading in Year 1. That might be with the teacher or the teaching assistant. Your child's book is assigned based on their phonic knowledge, and these will be changed after they have read the book 2 or 3 times at home, just to make sure they've built up fluency and also comprehension of the text. We also do whole class guided reading that will be explained on future slides. This is focuses children on the comprehension of texts. They will also take part in a 20-25 minute phonics lesson each day. These are linked to the spellings that are being taught each week. Your child will also get to visit our school library with their class and spend time enjoying the books in the lovely environment of our library. Guided reading. We call this session Book Talk, and this is a 30-minute session that we do 3 times a week, Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, and it's structured into 3 parts. 10 minutes focus on the fantastics, which I'll be talking about when I discuss writing. This might be looking at feelings of the characters, any action that happens in the text. 10 minutes will focus on the stylistics, so that might look at the problem in the story or certain characters. And the final 10 minutes will focus on the analytics, which will look at inference and personal opinions. So at the beginning of each session we'll begin with a read, and then the teacher will put up a sentence starter based on that part of the text. I'll show you how that's laid out in future slides. So the sentences, it's all currently verbal, so we focus on answering in full sentences. We'll then move on to writing in full sentences in our comprehension books when we feel the children are really confident at answering in full sentences. So on the interactive whiteboard we have a large copy of the text for all the children to see. So this is an example of one of the texts we might use. So at the end of the road And then each day certain questions will come up during that book. So in the picture, mum, dad and the children are, and the children might answer coming up to the gate. And then the setting of the story is the countryside. And then we're asking the children the final question in this session to look at what happens next in the text, to make their own prediction. And there'll be a lot of discussion and supporting with one another with their answering. Phonics. We're currently revisiting phase 2 and 3, looking at the phonemes for phase 2 and 3. These can be found on page 17 and 18 of your child's planner. And our phonics lessons are very interactive. We use flashcards, we use interactive games on the whiteboard. The children will also have an individual whiteboard and pen and rubber so that they can write words and show us, hold them up. After phase 3 we'll enter phase 4, so this is looking at blending for reading and segmentation for spelling and writing consonant, vowel, consonant, constant words like tent, and CCVC words, consonant, consonant, vowel, consonant words like from. And they'll also learn how to read and spell two-syllable words like handstand and writing captions and sentences. We'll then move on to phase 5. So these phonemes can be found on page 19 of your child's planner. They are A, ow, I, E, oi, u, o, w, f, u, o, o. And also we have the split digraphs, A, E, I, O, U, and example words you can see at the bottom of the slide. So phase 5 continues with alternative pronunciation of graphemes. So for example, OW can be ow in cow and O in the word blow. And we also teach alternative spellings for phonemes. So J can be spelled DGE in fudge and hedge, and N can be spelled KN with a silent K in words like knit and knot. These are the Year 1 common exception words, and they can be found on page 21 of your child's planner. These are words where the usual spelling rule doesn't apply, such as in words like friend and said, and words that are used very frequently in their writing, and that's why we introduce them now in Year 1. So it's really useful if your child is able to learn to read and spell these words. Pseudo words. So pseudo words are nonsense words. We often call these alien words in school. We practice reading these in school to assess children's grapheme recognition and blending skills. So for example, some alien words are here: pim, dar, shreb and wemp. And another reason why we practice these alien words is that in June there is a national Year 1 phonics screening check where the children will read 40 words, 20 of which are real words and 20 of which are alien words. And this is a pass or fail test, but if the child doesn't make the pass mark, they will retake the quiz in Year 2. Before June, they will be sending out more information about the phonics screening check and giving you resources to practice for the check with your child at home. So, how best to share books at home with your child? The main thing is that reading should be fun, and choosing the best moment to read with your child, whether it be 10 minutes in the morning before school, or after school, or curling up in bed at night when your child is most comfortable. Looking and talking about the front cover, so I wonder what this book might be about, and discussing the illustrations. Seeing if they can locate the title and telling you who the author and the illustrator may be and what their job is in the book. Asking your child if it's a story, is it fiction, or is it an information text, is it non-fiction? Always encouraging your child to use their following finger until they're confident, following the words in the book. Always support your child with the blending process, so if they are managing to sound out and they're struggling to blend, then help them with that part. And encouraging your child to use all of these strategies to read, so really using the pictures to help themselves, looking at the context of the text, finding meaning and using their phonics skills to support them. Writing in Year 1. So at the moment in Year 1 we're focusing on building up your child's strength in their hands, looking at fine motor skills, looking at the correct seating position, how they're holding their pencil, making sure that's correct, and then moving on to the correct letter formation. Writing in sentences with a capital letter at the beginning, finger spaces between words, and full stops at the end of their sentences. We'll then begin to use question marks and exclamation marks in their sentences, and always trying to spell using their phonics skills. In the classroom we have phoneme mats to support children with this to find the correct sound that they're looking for. So at Oatlands Infant School we use cursive handwriting, so you can see the style at the bottom of this slide. This can be found on page 25 of your child's planner. So as you can see, each letter has a leading line going up and an extra stroke going out of the letter. And when we move on to joining up later on in Year 1, the F, G, J and Y are then looped. So writing, we use the Right Stuff approach. So this is a style of teaching that makes the mechanics of writing easier for children to learn. Each lesson will begin with a hook activity, so it might be a video clip or a sound clip or an image or the teacher acting out a scene. Then there'll be a discussion about what the child has seen there, and we'll build up a word bank together related to this. The children will then create their own word banks in their books, and often supported with a little crib sheet to help them if needed. The teacher will then model sentences incorporating vocabulary, and then children will then aim to write their own independent sentences, but they'll always have a model for this, and then they can use their word bank in their own sentence. It sounds complicated, but we do find it really brings out some fantastic vocabulary in the children and builds confident writers. At the end of each unit of the Right Stuff, we always have a plan, write and edit session. This enables the children to shine and show what they've learnt during the sessions. Each unit will have an experience day. So for example, when we have our Stickman unit in a couple of weeks, the children will then make their own Stickman, for example, and then they can act out parts of the story using their own Stickman. Here we have the Fantastics. So I briefly mentioned the Fantastics in our book talk session slide. We have 9 Fantastics, and they are used to focus the children's ideas about what can be seen. It ignites their senses and broadens their vocabulary. All the teachers have these Fantastics on large lenses laminated, and we bring out each one when we're teaching that particular Fantastic. Maths Mastery in Year 1. Now, Maths Mastery, the children will have been familiar with this from their time in the early years foundation stage. Maths Mastery achieves deep conceptual understanding, and it gives the children the opportunity to grasp real maths, problem-solving skills, and crucially, a sense of achievement. These are the features of a Maths Mastery lesson. So there are 5 big ideas, and these are drawn from research evidence underpinning teaching for mastery. And this diagram shows how the 5 big ideas are binded together. Now the first one that isn't shown on this slide is coherence. So this means that our lessons are broken down into small connected steps, and it gradually unfolds a concept, providing access for all children. The second feature of a Maths Mastery lesson is representation and structure. So this looks at patterns, making connections. The third feature is mathematical thinking, looking at chains of reasoning in, and again, making connections. The fourth area is variation. So this is looking at procedures, concepts, making connections. And finally, the fifth area is fluency. This is looking at the quick and efficient recall of facts and procedures, and the children's flexibility to move between different concepts and representations of maths. We use concrete, pictorial and abstract approach to teaching. We find this highly effective. It develops a deep and sustainable understanding of maths in pupils. So first of all, the concrete, this is really the doing part of the lesson. So it's using cubes or, for example, concrete equipment. The second stage is the pictorial stage, and we can call this the seeing stage. This encourages children to make mental connections between the physical objects in the concrete stage and abstract pictures. Finally, with the foundations firmly laid, students will then move on to the abstract stage. This is when the children will use actual numbers and the symbols, for example, addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. This is an example of a typical Year 1 math lesson at Oatlands Infant School. Each lesson will begin with a flashback 4, which I'm going to be showing you on the following slide. We'll then always start with counting, so it might be using a counting stick or clapping or doing some keep fit counting, moving around in our places. Each lesson will then start with a STEM sentence. So this is the mathematical fact or the objective that we want them to remember in a lesson. This allows the children to communicate their ideas. So we model this sentence to the children, then we might ask individual children to say this sentence, and then the whole class will chant the sentence. And the main thing is hoping that the whole class remember this fact throughout the lesson. We then move on to the in focus section, and this is more of a class discussion to introduce the concept. Then we have let's practice, and that is the practical part of the lesson using the concrete objects. Then we have independent work, so that might be on sheets or in the children's books. Then we have the now try section, so this is the children answering the questions again independently, but it might be asking the question in a different way to challenge the pupils. Then we have the problem solving. And finally, chili challenges. So you might hear in the coming weeks your child talking about the chili challenges. We have the mild challenges, then the spicy and the extra hot chili challenges. So at the end of the lesson, if the children have got through all the parts of the lesson, they will then access the chili challenges and stick these in their books. And this is an extension of their learning, or it might be asking questions in a different way, challenging the children. The flashback 4, as I was talking about, this encourages children to revisit previous learning at the beginning of each lesson. So children can discuss together what the answers might be with their talk partner and share it with the class. Methods and resources that we use. So in Year 1 we use number tracks, we could call them number lines. So we use these to count forwards and backwards. The children will have used these in reception. Also tens frames that we're using this week. So these are used for counting and help form the basis for understanding of place value in the future. We always tell the children to fill their tens frame, the top row first. That's one thing they need to remember. We also use part whole models. So this is a concept of how numbers can be split into parts, and they can see the relationship between whole numbers and the two parts. So this helps learners make connections between addition and subtraction. For example, if we had 10 in the whole, that's the circle at the top, and 6 and 4 at the bottom, the children could then say that 6 add 4 equals 10, and equally 4 add 6 equals 10. And therefore 10 subtract 6 equals 4, and 10 subtract 4 equals 6. At the bottom you can see a tens and ones chart, and this helps children learn about place value. And the blue equipment is called base 10, and this is used for addition, subtraction and place value. The blue small cubes represent the units, the rods are the tens, the flat ones are the hundreds, and the blocks represent 1,000. We also use 100 squares towards the end of Year 1. These are used for counting, ordering, addition, subtraction and multiplication skills. It also enables children to discover number patterns. Number squares or 100 squares help build maths confidence and independence. Instant recall facts. These support the development of mental maths, and we really in Year 1 encourage a quick response to these objectives, and we work on these throughout Year 1. If you have any questions about the presentation, please feel free to ask your class teacher, and of course we'll be having a parents' evening in this half term. Thank you very much.